Elias Mercer always believed that space would feel bigger. He had spent his whole life studying alien languages, alien logic systems, and alien cultures. He had memorized thousands of symbols that no human mouth could naturally pronounce. He had prepared himself for wonder, for fear, for awe. But when he stood inside the glass corridor of the Concorde station, watching stars slide past like quiet thoughts, what he felt most was stillness. The galaxy was not loud. It did not shout its greatness. It simply existed, patient and old. Elias adjusted the thin translation band around his wrist and exhaled slowly. Around him, representatives of dozens of species moved with calm purpose. Some floated, some walked, some glided on magnetic fields or artificial gravity wells. None of them hurried. None of them wasted motion. Humans, he had learned, were known for wasting motion. They were expressive. They gestured when they spoke. Their faces moved too much. Their emotions leaked into posture, voice, breath. Other species noticed. They always noticed. That was why Elias was here. Not because he was important or powerful or famous, but because he was ordinary. The Interstellar Alliance had decided that if they wanted to understand humanity, they should not begin with generals or politicians. They should begin with someone normal, someone who listened more than he spoke, someone like Elias Mercer, junior linguistic analyst, cultural liaison, and accidental representative of the human emotional condition. He was walking toward Laboratory Ring 7 when the corridor lights shifted from white to soft blue. That meant an Aurelian was nearby. Elias slowed his steps. The Aurelians did not resemble humans in any comforting way. They were tall and slender, with smooth, pale skin that reflected light instead of absorbing it. Their eyes were large, dark, and unblinking, adapted for reading micro-expressions and energy fluctuations rather than emotion in the human sense. Their voices were calm, even, and carefully measured. They were famous for one thing above all else: they did not love. At least, not as humans understood it. Aurelian society was built on precision. Mates were chosen through genetic compatibility, neural harmony, and long-term efficiency models. Emotion was not forbidden, but it was regulated. Attachment was limited. Bonding was functional. Love, as humans described it, was considered unstable. Elias reached the lab entrance and paused as the door slid open without a sound. Inside stood Aurelia Veth. She was facing away from him, studying a floating display of human neurological scans. The lights reflected softly along the smooth curve of her head. Thin lines of bioluminescent markings pulsed slowly along her neck, responding to internal data processing. She did not turn immediately. She already knew he was there. "Elias Mercer," she said calmly. "Your arrival is precisely on schedule." He gave a small smile, even though he knew she could not read it the way humans did. "Good morning, Dr. Veth," he replied. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything important." She turned then, her dark eyes focusing on him with careful intensity. "You are the important variable," she said. "Your presence is the purpose of this session." Elias shifted slightly, suddenly aware of how human that sounded. "Right," he said. "Well, that's comforting." Aurelia tilted her head by exactly 3 degrees, a sign of analytical curiosity. "Your vocal tone indicates uncertainty masked by humor," she observed. "Is this a common human response to being evaluated?" "Pretty much," Elias said. "If we don't joke, we panic." She absorbed this without comment. He took a seat across from her as instructed. The lab was quiet, except for the faint hum of energy fields and distant station activity. Between them, a soft light projected data, images, and abstract models of human emotional patterns. Aurelia studied him closely. "You display no exceptional genetic markers," she said.
Your cognitive scores are within standard deviation. Your emotional regulation is, average.
Hey, Elias said lightly. That's the nicest insult I've had all week. Again, the head tilt. I am not insulting you, she said. I am confirming suitability. You are representative. Representative of what? He asked. Human emotional baseline, she replied.
You are neither extreme nor deficient. This makes you ideal for observation.
Elias leaned back slightly. So I'm normal enough to be interesting? Yes, he accepted that. Their sessions began simply. Aurelia asked questions. Elias answered honestly. Sometimes he struggled to explain concepts that humans took for granted. Why did humans form attachments that caused pain? Why did they value inefficiency in relationships? Why did they choose emotional fulfillment over logical optimization? Elias tried his best. Because it feels right, he said at one point. Aurelia paused for longer than usual. Define feels right, she requested. He searched for words. It's like when something fits inside you, he said slowly. Not logically. Emotionally. Like a quiet yes that doesn't need reasons. She recorded this. As the hours passed, something subtle shifted. Aurelia noticed increased internal feedback. Minor fluctuations in her empathic receptors. A faint warmth spreading through her chest cavity when Elias laughed softly at his own poor explanations. She dismissed it as sensor interference. Elias noticed something too. She was listening, not just recording data, not just processing words. She was paying attention in a way that felt personal. When he hesitated, she waited. When he struggled, she adjusted her questions. At one point, he stopped mid-sentence. Did I say something wrong? He asked. No, she replied immediately. I experienced an unexpected delay in response. I was...
Considering, that sounds dangerous, Elias said.
For humans, perhaps, she said. For me, it is unusual. They ended the session later than scheduled. As Elias stood to leave, Aurelia's bioluminescent markings pulsed more brightly than before. She watched him with an intensity she could not fully explain. Elias Mercer, she said. Yes. Do humans often remain unaware of the impact they have on others? He smiled gently. All the time. He left the lab, unaware that behind him, Aurelia was already running diagnostics. Her systems reported no errors. Her heart recognition organ, dormant for most of her life, had activated. She did not yet understand what that meant. But somewhere deep within her, something ancient and precise had begun to focus on a single impossible truth, and it was watching a human walk away. Aurelia Veth did not sleep. Her species did not require rest in the human sense, but they did enter low processing cycles to stabilize neural systems. That cycle never came. Instead, Aurelia sat alone in the dim light of her private chamber, surrounded by floating data fields that refused to settle into clean conclusions. Numbers adjusted themselves. Graphs reshaped. Predictive models collapsed and rebuilt again. All of them pointed to the same impossible problem. Elias Mercer. His presence had triggered her heart recognition organ. That organ was not emotional. It was biological. Precise. Ancient. It existed to identify a single compatible mate over a lifetime, using layers of genetic, neural, and existential harmony. It was not supposed to activate by accident. It had activated within 47 minutes of sustained interaction with a human male who, by every measurable standard, was unremarkable. Aurelia reviewed the session footage again. Elias explaining laughter. Elias struggling to define feels right. Elias smiling when uncertain. The warmth returned. She paused the playback. That sensation was not supposed to exist without cause. Her species did not associate warmth with social interaction. Warmth belonged to bonding. Bonding belonged to efficiency. This was not efficient. She initiated a full internal diagnostic. No errors, no malfunctions. Her biology was functioning perfectly, which meant the problem was not her. The problem was humanity. The following cycle, Aurelia requested another session. The request was approved with mild curiosity. Human emotional studies were already producing unusual data. Other researchers had noticed subtle shifts after prolonged human contact, slight increases in creativity, empathy, and individual expression among non-human species. Nothing alarming. Nothing like this. Elias arrived early. He stood outside Laboratory Ring 7, hands in his pockets, rocking slightly on his heels. He told himself he was calm, but his heart rate suggested otherwise. He did not know why he felt nervous. He had spoken to Aurelia before. She was calm, polite, professional. And yet, something about the way she had looked at him when he left the last session had stayed in his thoughts longer than he expected. The door opened. She was already there.
Good cycle, Elias Mercer, Aurelia said. Good
Morning, he replied. I'm still adjusting to the station's time. This is acceptable, she said.
Human temporal perception is flexible, he smiled.
Her markings pulsed. They began the session. At first, Aurelia followed protocol. She asked trolled questions about emotional attachment. Elias answered with examples from his life. Family, friendships, small losses, quiet joys. Then she changed direction. When humans experience attachment, she asked, do they do so consciously? Elias considered this. Sometimes, he said.
But usually it just happens. Without permission, she asked.
Yeah, he said softly. Without permission. Her internal systems flagged increased resonance. And when attachment is not reciprocated? She asked.
That hurts, he said honestly. But we still do it.
We don't stop loving just because it's risky. Why? She asked. He shrugged.
Because not loving is worse. That answer did not fit any Aurelian model. Aurelia felt the warmth again, stronger this time.
It spread from her chest to her neural core, creating a feedback loop she could not suppress. She ended the session early. Elias noticed. Did I say something wrong again? He asked. No, she replied quickly. I am processing. She stood very still. Elias Mercer, she said. Would you describe yourself as emotionally influential? He laughed, surprised.
No, not at all. That assessment contradicts current data, she said.
He blinked.
I influence people. You influence me, she said.
Silence followed. Elias felt it settle between them, heavy and strange. I'm sorry, he said slowly. If I'm making your work harder, you are not, she interrupted. You are making it meaningful. She froze. That word had not been approved. Meaningful. It echoed inside her systems, unauthorized but undeniable. Elias did not know what to say to that. They ended the session in quiet uncertainty. After he left, Aurelia reported her condition. The collective responded immediately.
Medical evaluation? Isolation protocol?
Emotional dampening procedures. Aurelia complied. She always had. The procedures were thorough.
Neural stabilization fields. Hormonal regulation.
Sensory. Isolation. The warmth faded. So did something else. Her thoughts slowed. Her perception narrowed. Her internal world became quieter. Efficient. But empty. She realized that absence hurt. That realization alarmed her more than the activation itself. During isolation, she was forbidden from interacting with Elias. Elias noticed. Days passed without summons, no messages, no explanations. He tried to tell himself it was normal. Researchers rotated, projects paused. But something felt wrong. He had grown used to Aurelia's questions, her careful listening, the strange sense that she was not just studying him, but learning with him. Without that, the station felt colder. Eventually, a message arrived. Mandatory reassignment review. Elias attended, uneasy. Aurelia stood across the chamber, flanked by collective representatives. She looked unchanged, but Elias felt it immediately. Something was missing. Her eyes were distant, her posture rigid, her markings dim. "Dr. Veth," he asked quietly. She did not respond at first. When she did, her voice was precise, controlled. "Elias Mercer," she said.
Your participation in this study has concluded.
His chest tightened. "Oh," he said.
Did I mess something up?
"No," she said. "You exceeded expectations. That made it worse." The collective spoke of efficiency, of anomalies, of necessary corrections. Elias barely heard them. He was watching Aurelia. She was watching the floor. Something inside her pushed. The heart recognition organ resisted suppression. Warmth flared, sharp and painful. She looked up. "I object," Aurelia said. The chamber went still. "This reassignment will cause irreversible internal damage," she continued calmly. "Not to my systems, to my identity." The collective paused. "This language is inappropriate," one representative said.
It is accurate, Aurelia replied. I am experiencing emotional deprivation. Elias stared.
"You're feeling?" he asked quietly. Her eyes met his.
Yes, she said. And I believe you are the cause.
The collective exchanged silent signals.
Explain, they demanded. Aurelia stood straighter.
"My heart recognition organ has bonded," she said. "It recognizes Elias Mercer as its sole compatible mate." The words landed like a shockwave. Elias felt his breath leave him. "What?" he whispered.
That is not possible, the collective said. It has already occurred, Aurelia replied.
"Suppressing it causes harm." The chamber filled with quiet tension. A human, a mate. Impossible. And yet, the data supported her claim. Elias did not know what to do. He felt honored, terrified, completely unprepared. "I don't want to hurt you," he said honestly.
I never meant to. I know, she said softly. That is why this matters.
The collective adjourned for deliberation. Aurelia and Elias were left alone. For the first time, there were no observers, no protocols, just two beings standing between worlds.
I don't understand this, Elias said. Neither do I, Aurelia replied.
But I do understand one thing.
What's that? When you are near, I am more than what I was designed to be. The warmth settled between them, quiet and undeniable. And somewhere deep in the galaxy's most logical species, something irreversible had already begun. The station felt different after the declaration. Nothing visible had changed. Corridors still glowed with soft light. Species from across the galaxy still moved through shared spaces with quiet efficiency. But beneath the calm surface, something unseen had shifted.
News traveled quickly inside the collective.
An Aurelian had bonded with a human. Meetings were called. Data was reviewed. Old theories were pulled from archives and examined with new eyes. The word impossible appeared often, but less confidently each time. Aurelia Veth was placed under observation, not confinement. The collective did not punish deviation. They corrected it, but correction was becoming difficult. She was allowed to continue her duties, but Elias was removed from direct contact. No shared sessions. No casual meetings. Distance, they believed, would weaken the anomaly.
They were wrong. Aurelia felt it immediately.
The absence of Elias was not neutral. It was painful. Her thoughts drifted without focus. Tasks that once felt clear now felt empty. Her efficiency dropped, not dramatically, but enough to be noticed. She began pausing before decisions, considering not only outcomes, but how they felt. That frightened her. During one evaluation, a senior collective analyst studied her quietly. "You are displaying hesitation," they observed. "I am displaying consideration," Aurelia replied.
There is no functional difference. There is to me, she said. That sentence was recorded and flagged.
Meanwhile, Elias struggled in his own quiet way. He had been reassigned to translation work, far from the research ring. No one explained why. No one met his questions with direct answers. He was not in trouble, but he was no longer needed where he wanted to be. He missed Aurelia more than he expected, not in a dramatic way, not in the way songs and stories described. He missed her questions, her calm presence, the way she listened, like every word mattered. He worried about her. Had he broken something inside her? Had he changed her in a way that would cost her place among her people? The thought sat heavy in his chest. Days passed, then weeks. The collective called another review. This time, Aurelia was not alone. Representatives from other species attended. Observers, advisors, curious minds who had begun to notice similar changes in their own populations after long exposure to humans. Increased emotional awareness, unexpected attachments, stronger individual identities. Humanity was becoming a variable no one could ignore. Aurelia stood at the center of the chamber, calm but resolute. "The bond has not weakened," she said plainly. "It has stabilized. That should not occur without reinforcement," a representative said. "It occurs regardless," Aurelia replied. "Explain." She paused. For the first time in her life, she searched for words instead of data.
When Elias Mercer is absent, she said slowly, my internal systems remain functional, but I am diminished.
When he is present, I am whole. Silence followed. "That language is subjective," someone said. "Yes," Aurelia replied.
That is the point.
The collective proposed alternatives: genetic rematching, artificial emotional suppression, permanent separation. Aurelia listened to each one. Then she refused them all.
I will not consent to procedures that erase part of my identity, she said. What has emerged is not a flaw. It is an expansion into instability, they warned.
Or into depth, she countered. The debate reached an impasse.
So they turned to Elias. He was summoned without explanation. When he entered the chamber and saw Aurelia standing there, something inside him relaxed and tightened at the same time. She noticed immediately. Her markings brightened. The warmth returned, strong and steady.
Elias Mercer,
the collective addressed him. You are the central factor in this anomaly.
That's not great, he said honestly.
You are not accused, they said. You are requested to explain. He glanced at Aurelia. She met his gaze, open and unguarded. I didn't plan this, Elias said.
I didn't even know it was possible. I just talked to her.
I answered questions. I treated her like a person.
That behavior may be the cause, someone said. Then maybe that's not a problem, Elias replied.
Murmurs followed.
You risk destabilizing a species, the collective warned.
Elias swallowed. I would never want to hurt anyone, he said. But I don't think caring is damage. Where I come from, it's how we survive.
Explain,
they said. Humans are fragile. Elias continued. We don't live long. We make mistakes. We feel too much. But those feelings push us to protect each other, to grow, to change when we need to. He looked at Aurelia. She didn't lose herself, he said. She found something new. Aurelia felt something tighten in her chest. Gratitude. Affection. Pride. She named them silently. The collective withdrew again to deliberate. This time, the pause was longer. When they returned, their tone had shifted. The bond will be studied, not removed, they announced. Separation protocols are suspended. Elias exhaled shakily. Aurelia felt relief ripple through her systems. But there will be limits, they added. Observation will continue. That is acceptable, Aurelia said. Elias was not sure what was acceptable, but he nodded anyway. After the session, they were allowed a short, private moment. They stood together near a viewport, stars drifting beyond the glass. I never wanted to cause trouble, Elias said quietly. You did not, Aurelia replied. You caused change. That's usually worse, he said. For my people, perhaps, she said. For me, it is welcome. He smiled. Her warmth deepened. They spoke cautiously, learning how to exist in this new space between them. Not rushing, but not defining too much, just acknowledging what was there. But the galaxy was watching. Reports spread. Discussions followed. Some species were curious. Others were afraid. If an Aurelian could bond outside their kind, what else could change? Humanity, once considered emotionally inefficient, was being reevaluated. Not as weak, but as transformative. And Aurelia knew the truth, even if others did not. This bond was not a conclusion. It was a beginning. Something had crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. And in the quiet between stars, the future was already reshaping itself around two unlikely hearts. Under observation, life did not slow down. It became sharper. Aurelia and Elias were allowed to meet now, but only in approved spaces, and only for limited periods. The collective called it controlled interaction. Elias called it careful breathing. Aurelia called it necessary. They met often near the large observation garden, a place designed to calm multiple species at once. Soft light filtered through layered glass. Artificial plants moved gently, responding to changes in air and energy. It was one of the few places on the station that felt almost alive. At first, they spoke about small things. Elias told her stories about Earth, about rain that smelled like dust and green leaves, about oceans that never stayed still, about people who argued loudly and forgave slowly. Aurelia listened with full attention. She told him about her people's cities, built in precise curves and perfect balance, about how every building was designed to last centuries, about how children were raised to value clarity over comfort.
Did you like it? Elias asked once.
She thought carefully. I did not question it, she said, until now. That answer stayed with him. As days passed, changes began to ripple outward. Other researchers noticed that Aurelia was not the only one affected. A Keth observer requested reassignment after forming an unexpected attachment to a human engineer. A Lorian diplomat began incorporating emotional language into official statements after long negotiations with human teams. None of it was dramatic. None of it was violent or chaotic. It was quiet, and it was spreading. The collective could not ignore it anymore. They called a public forum. This was rare. The collective preferred closed discussions, clean decisions, and minimal emotional exposure. But the data demanded broader input. Representatives from allied species were invited. Human delegates were included, though carefully monitored. Aurelia was asked to speak. She stood before the assembly, calm as ever. But something inside her moved with steady force. Elias sat among the human observers, hands folded tightly, heart racing. Aurelia began simply.
I was designed to function without emotional dependency, she said. That design was effective.
It produced stability, efficiency, and long-term survival. No one argued with that. But it also limited us, she continued. We mistook control for completeness. Murmurs spread through the chamber. She did not raise her voice. She did not plead. She explained. When my heart recognition organ bonded with a human, it did not erase logic. It did not weaken me. It added depth. I remain rational. I remain capable. But I am no longer narrow. The words settled into the room. Some fear that humans destabilize us, she said. I propose a different interpretation. Humans introduce variables we never allowed ourselves to explore. A representative interrupted. You risk emotional dependency. Yes, Aurelia said calmly. And with it, we gain empathy, motivation, choice. That word echoed even louder than before. Elias watched her, stunned. He had never seen her like this, not defensive, not uncertain, just clear. She was not asking permission. She was offering perspective. After the forum, the station buzzed with discussion. Species debated among themselves. Humans were suddenly in demand, invited to panels and interviews about emotional bonding, cooperation, and resilience. Humanity's reputation shifted. They were no longer just emotional and inefficient. They were adaptable. Catalysts. Elias found it overwhelming. I didn't sign up to represent my entire species, he said one evening as they stood in the garden. You are not required to, Aurelia replied. You are only required to be yourself.
That feels like a lot right now, he admitted. She considered this.
For my people, she said, being oneself was never the goal, being correct was. And now? He asked.
And now, she said softly, I am learning the difference. Not everyone welcomed the change. Some members of the collective pushed back. They argued that emotional influence could fracture long-standing systems, that allowing bonds like Aurelia's could lead to instability over centuries. They proposed restrictions, no cross-species bonding, limited human integration, emotional shielding in shared environments. Aurelia read the proposals and felt the warmth tighten into something sharper. Resolve. She requested a private meeting with the collective. Elias was not invited. This time, she stood alone. I will be clear, she said. I will not sever my bond. That may require consequences, they warned. But understand this. Removing this part of me will not restore the past. It will only damage the future. You place individual desire above collective stability, one said. I place evolution above stagnation, she answered. They studied her. She was calm, focused, unyielding. This was not emotional chaos. This was choice. The collective delayed their decision. In that delay, something important happened. Other Aurelians began reporting internal changes. Not full bonds, but emotional stirrings. Curiosity. Attachment to ideas, to individuals, to art created by humans. The dam had cracked. Elias felt the weight of it all pressing down on him. One evening, he spoke the fear he had been holding back. What if I ruin your place among your people? He asked. Aurelia turned to him fully. You did not force this, she said. You revealed it. That doesn't make it safer. No, she agreed. But it makes it honest. She paused. Elias Mercer, she said. Do humans fear being changed by love? He laughed softly. All the time. Yet you still choose it. Yeah, he said. Every time. She reached out, slowly, carefully, and placed her hand near his, not touching, just close enough to feel the warmth they shared.
I am choosing as well, she said. The collective made their announcement days later.
Cross-species bonds would not be forbidden. They would be monitored, studied, and carefully integrated into future models. It was not full acceptance, but it was recognition. Elias felt relief wash through him. Aurelia felt something deeper, pride, hope, and something like joy, though she was still learning that word. The galaxy did not change overnight. But it had tilted, and at the center of that shift stood two beings who had never meant to start anything at all. They had simply met and refused to deny what followed. The decision did not come with ceremony. There were no banners, no music, no dramatic announcement across the station. The collective released their final ruling in the same way they released most things, as a calm statement of recorded fact. The bond between Arelivith and Elias Mercer was recognized as valid, not symbolic, not temporary, validated. The statement explained that the bond would be documented as the first confirmed cross-species heart recognition alignment in Aurelian history. It would be studied, referenced, and used to adjust future models of emotional intelligence and social evolution. For the galaxy, it was history. For Aurelia, it was permission to breathe. She stood alone in her chamber when the notice arrived. As she read it, her internal systems reacted in ways she now recognized easily. Warmth spread through her chest. Her thoughts sharpened instead of narrowing. Her sense of self felt whole instead of divided. She did not celebrate. She went to find Elias. He was in the garden, sitting near the artificial water stream, watching light reflect across the surface. Humans liked water. She had learned that. It reminded them of home, of movement, of time passing without instruction. When he saw her, he stood up too quickly. "Is it over?" he asked. She nodded once. "Yes," she said.
They have recognized the bond. His breath left him in a rush. So,
"We're allowed?" he asked, almost afraid to hear the answer. "We are acknowledged," she corrected gently. "Allowed is a human concept." He laughed quietly, then stopped, emotion catching in his chest. "I don't know what I'm supposed to do now," he admitted.
Aurelia stepped closer. "For my people," she said, "when a bond is confirmed, the individuals choose how to honor it."
Yes, she said. There is no script. That felt very human.
They walked together through the garden, side by side, not touching but close enough that the space between them felt alive. Around them, other species moved freely, some watching with curiosity, others pretending not to notice. The galaxy was still adjusting. So were they. Elias broke the silence. "I keep thinking I should say something important," he said.
something that proves I deserve this.
Aurelia looked at him. "You do not earn bonds," she said.
You enter them. That's terrifying, he said. Yes, she agreed. It is also honest.
They stopped near the edge of the water.
I need to ask you something, Elias said. And you don't have to answer right away.
She waited. "If this changes your future," he said carefully, "if it costs you opportunities, status, respect, I need to know you're choosing it, not just responding to biology." She felt the weight of that question fully. "My biology recognized you," she said, "but my choice is separate." She placed her hand gently over her chest. "I am aware of what I risk," she continued. "I am also aware of what I gain." "And what's that?" he asked softly. "Depth," she said. "Meaning." "And you." Something in his eyes softened. "I don't want to be the center of your world," he said. "I just want to be part of it." "You are not the center," she said. You are the connection. That answer felt right to both of them. Over the following cycles, their bond became visible in quiet ways. Aurelia began mentoring younger Aurelians differently, encouraging questions that did not have clear answers. Elias was invited to speak at cultural exchanges, not as a symbol, but as a participant. Other species watched closely. Some were inspired. Some were cautious. Some were afraid. Change always felt dangerous before it felt normal. The collective adjusted their models. Emotional variables were no longer treated as inefficiencies, but as potential strengths. Long-term projections shifted. New branches of research opened. Humanity's role in the alliance changed as well. They were no longer just members. They were bridges. Elias struggled with that idea. I'm still just a guy who likes bad coffee and old music, he told Aurelia one evening. That does not reduce your impact, she replied. It humanizes it. He smiled. See, that's the thing, he said. I don't want to be special. She stopped walking and turned to face him fully. Elias Mercer, she said, you are not special because you changed the galaxy. He waited. You are special because you did not try to, she finished. That stayed with him. Their bond deepened slowly, not in dramatic gestures, but in shared routines, shared silence, the comfort of knowing someone was there without needing to check. Aurelia learned human expressions. Elias learned Aurelian stillness. They did not merge into one identity. They expanded, side by side. The galaxy recorded their bond as a turning point. Aurelia recorded it as a beginning. One cycle, she stood before the collective again, not to defend herself, but to present findings. Our models were incomplete, she said, not because they were wrong, but because they were limited. She spoke of empathy as information, of love as a stabilizing force, not a disruptive one, of choice as the key to resilience. This bond did not weaken me, she concluded. It taught me what strength feels like. The collective accepted the report without objection. That, more than words, marked how far things had shifted. Later, Elias and Aurelia stood at the observation window together, stars drifting endlessly beyond.
Do you regret it? Elias asked quietly.
She did not hesitate. No, she said. No.
Even knowing it changed everything? Especially because it did, she replied. He nodded, understanding.
Humans have a saying, he said, that love doesn't complete you. It reveals you. That is accurate, she said.
You revealed me to myself? She reached for his hand this time. He took it. Their fingers fit naturally, not by design, but by choice. The galaxy continued to move. Civilizations rose and adapted. Models evolved. Alliances shifted. But one truth remained, recorded not just in data, but in memory. A heart designed to recognize only its own kind had looked across the stars and chosen differently. And humanity, in all its fragile, emotional, unreasonable nature, had proven something quietly powerful. That love did not weaken logic, it expanded it. And that sometimes the most important revolutions began not with force or ambition, but with one being saying, calmly and clearly, "You are the only mate my heart recognizes."